My name is Natalie Reyes. I'm 30, a software engineer living in Denver, Colorado. That Thursday should have been ordinary. Late meetings, lukewarm coffee, the quiet satisfaction of finishing another long day. But as I stepped into the parking lot, a sharp pit formed in my stomach. Something was wrong. My eyes scanned the familiar row of cars, searching for the space where my silver 2023 Toyota Camry always sat, gleaming under the streetlight like a small reward for years of painstaking work. The spot was empty. I froze. My pulse thundered in my ears. I checked the road once, twice, 3 times, convinced I'd parked elsewhere, but no. My car, my first car I had ever fully owned, was gone. Hands shaking, I pulled out my phone and called my mother. "Mom, my car's missing. Did someone tow it?" Her voice, calm and unbothered, hit me like a slap. "Oh, honey, relax. We gave it to Elena. She needs it more than you do. She just lost hers last week." For a moment, I couldn't speak. "You what?" I whispered. "You what?" she repeated, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Elena has a new job, sweetheart. Don't make a scene." Something inside me shattered. That car wasn't just metal and paint. It was every long night spent at the library, every extra shift, every painstaking payment on that loan. My hands were trembling as I hung up before saying something I'd regret. Then I dialed 911, the weight of betrayal pressing into my chest. Growing up, I learned early that love in my family came with conditions, and fairness was a stranger. I was the oldest, the problem solver, the quiet achiever. By 18, I worked 2 part-time jobs while studying computer science, saving every dollar, learning early that my family never rewarded effort. Meanwhile, Elena, the golden child, was showered with gifts, opportunities, and rescue after rescue, often for mistakes she barely acknowledged. I remember vividly the night I was 19, sitting on my bedroom floor counting tips from a cafe shift, debating if I could afford a used laptop. Mom knocked, entering with a bright smile, placing a brand new MacBook on Elena's bed. "Isn't it great? She needs it for her group projects." I nodded silently, clutching my secondhand Dell that wheezed like it was apologizing for existing. That was the moment I realized the rules in our family. Effort was invisible. Only chaos was celebrated. Years passed. I moved out, found a tech job, and built my life on independence. I learned the quiet satisfaction of paying my own rent, cooking my own meals, saving my own money. By the time I bought my Camry, every payment felt like a small victory, a tangible proof that I could stand on my own. And yet, here I was, standing in the cold parking lot, my independence stripped away without warning, without consent, by the people who were supposed to support me. They hadn't stolen my car out of malice. No, this was some habit, a lifelong pattern. In their eyes, what was mine was always theirs to redistribute. They'd never understood the trembling pride of signing your own check, the relief of paying off a first debt. But they were experts at excusing others while taking from me. I pressed 911, forcing the words out through the shaking in my voice. "I'd like to report a stolen vehicle." The dispatcher's calm tone barely penetrated my storm. "Can you describe the vehicle, ma'am?" "Silver 2023 Toyota Camry, Colorado plates registered under my name. Natalie Reyes." I glanced again at the empty parking spot, hoping for a miracle. "And do you know who might have taken it?" I drew a sharp breath. "My parents. They gave it to my sister Elena without my permission." The pause on the other end felt heavy. "You believe your family took your car without consent?" "Not believe," I said, voice firmer now. "I know. My mother told me." The dispatcher responded gently, almost like an anchor in the chaos. "Understood. Please stay where you are. An officer will be sent to take your statement." By the time Officer Ruiz arrived, the sun had dipped behind the Denver skyline, leaving the lot bathed in pale orange light. She carried herself with quiet authority, a presence that made chaos feel manageable. I handed her everything: title, registration, proof of payments, insurance statements. She nodded, taking each document seriously, flipping through them with careful precision. "Family theft cases are complicated," she said quietly. "But they're still theft. The law doesn't make exceptions for feelings." That sentence hit harder than I expected. The law doesn't make exceptions for feelings. I had spent my life trapped in a system of excuses where my responsibility was invisible and my achievements ignored. Yet here, outside of my family, justice sounded simple. My Camry was mine, and someone had taken it without consent. As Ruiz snapped photos of the empty parking spot and ran a bolo, I realized this wasn't just about a car. It was about every moment I had been overlooked, every sacrifice ignored, every boundary crossed. For the first time, I felt a flicker of something I had almost forgotten, standing up for myself. The lot was silent, the hum of the city around me, and for the first time, I truly understood what it meant to fight back. My car was gone, but my voice, finally, was being heard. Standing in that empty parking lot, I felt more than anger. I felt a lifetime of injustice collapse onto me all at once. This wasn't just about a car. It was the culmination of years spent invisible in my own family while my sister Elena thrived in a world cushioned by excuses, gifts, and praise I had never received. Growing up, I learned quickly that in my family, love had rules I could never follow. I was the oldest, the responsible one, the fixer. I asked for little because I knew. Asking was pointless. By 18, I was juggling 2 part-time jobs while studying computer science, budgeting every dollar and saving every cent. My parents called it good practice for the real world. In reality, it was a silent message. We won't help you. You'll have to make it on your own. Meanwhile, Elena lived in a very different reality. When she turned 18, my parents threw her a lavish surprise, a brand new MacBook, a camera, and a trip to Europe. She needs to find her inspiration, Mom said, as if my inspiration, which had kept me awake in dim library cubicles at 3 a.m., wasn't worth celebrating. I had found mine, through effort, persistence, and long nights of self-discipline, but my family didn't recognize it. Only chaos and drama earned their applause. Elena never struggled the way I did. She quit 3 jobs in 2 years, hopping from yoga retreats to online art classes she never finished. Each failure was met with immediate rescue. Bad management, toxic coworkers, unlucky circumstances, always someone else's fault. And every time my parents swooped in, their wallets open, their forgiveness endless. While I counted every penny for groceries and chipped away at student loans, they bailed her out without hesitation. I remember one night as clearly as if it were yesterday. I was 19, sitting on my bedroom floor counting tips from my cafe shift, debating whether I could afford a used laptop for class. Mom knocked and entered, holding a sleek white box. "Isn't it great?" she said, setting the MacBook on Elena's bed. "Your sister needs it for her group projects." I nodded silently, clutching my old Dell that wheezed every time I opened it. My chest tightened with frustration and resentment. That was the moment I understood the rules in our family. Effort was invisible, responsibility was ignored, and chaos always got a reward. By the time I graduated, I had stopped expecting fairness. I moved to Denver, found a tech job, and promised myself I'd never ask my family for help again. Independence was lonely at first, paying rent, filing taxes, cooking for one, but it was mine. Each paycheck I earned without interference was proof that I could stand on my own 2 feet. For 6 years, I worked, saved, and scrimped, keeping my life small but stable. When I finally bought my first car, a 2023 silver Toyota Camry, I felt something I had never experienced before. Pride that belonged entirely to me. No cosigners, no gifts, no strings attached. Every loan payment I made was a tiny victory, each one a declaration that I was capable, responsible, and independent. Meanwhile, Elena's record of disasters continued. 3 cars totaled, replaced within weeks, with excuses and apologies flying faster than any collision. "She's just unlucky," Dad once said. I stared at the photos of her mangled Honda and felt a mixture of disbelief and rage. In my family, misfortune for her was just an opportunity for another rescue, while for me, hard work and caution were ignored. I realized then that my parents didn't see me. Not really. They didn't understand the weight of independence, the quiet triumph of earning something with your own hands, the relief of paying off your first debt. To them, Elena's chaos was dramatic and worthy of attention. My responsibility was invisible by design. I had learned early that my achievements didn't matter unless they could serve someone else or highlight someone else's failures. So I stopped sharing, stopped celebrating openly. When I got promotions, I didn't tell them. When I hit savings goals, I celebrated alone with takeout sushi. I learned to carry my pride quietly, like a secret shield no one could touch. And yet, despite years of building this armor, the theft of my car pierced it effortlessly. It was a stark reminder that no matter how far I'd gone, the patterns of my family could still reach me. As I replayed that phone call with Mom over and over in my mind, I realized this was bigger than a stolen car. This was the latest chapter in a story that had been written long before I was born. A story where my worth was measured against someone else's entitlement, where fairness was irrelevant, and where my voice had always been muted. I clenched my fists, my breath fogging in the cold Denver air. This time, I wouldn't stay silent. This time, I would fight, not just for the Camry, but for every quiet victory they had tried to erase, every boundary they had crossed, every moment they had taught me that I didn't matter. The first step was calling the police. The next steps, I would take myself. The moment I pressed 911, something shifted inside me. It wasn't just about the car anymore. It was about everything it represented. Independence, pride, the countless hours I had spent building my life without asking anyone for help. For the first time, I wasn't hiding my anger, my hurt, or my voice. I was claiming it. 911, what's your emergency? The dispatcher's calm voice sounded in my ear, a lifeline in the chaos of my thoughts. I need to report a stolen vehicle, I said, forcing my voice steady despite the shaking in my hands. I repeated the details. Silver 2023 Toyota Camry, Colorado plates, registered under my name, Natalie Reyes. I described the last time I had seen it, the spot where I always parked. Then came the hardest part. And do you know who might have taken it? The dispatcher asked. I drew a shaky breath. Yes, my parents. They gave it to my sister Elena without my permission. There was a pause on the other end of the line, a long, loaded pause. You believe your family took your car without consent? Not believe, I corrected, my voice firmer now. I know. My mother told me herself. Understood, Miss Reyes. Please stay where you are. An officer will be sent to take your statement. I hung up and sank onto the curb, staring at the empty spot. My pulse was still racing, but I felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time, someone outside my family acknowledged that what had been done to me was wrong. The law didn't make exceptions for family. The law didn't care about excuses or feelings. And in that moment, I realized something profound. I didn't need anyone's permission to stand up for myself. 20 minutes later, Officer Ruiz arrived. She stepped out of the patrol car with a quiet, authoritative presence, the kind that made chaos feel manageable. Her dark hair was tied back in a neat ponytail, her expression calm but attentive. You reported a stolen vehicle? She asked, glancing at the folder I had instinctively grabbed from my desk before leaving the office. I handed over the paperwork, title, registration, proof of payments, insurance statements, even the last loan statement stamped paid in full. Everything is under your name? She asked, flipping through the papers. Yes, I said. No co-signers, no shared ownership. No one had permission to take it. She nodded, her expression serious. Do you know where your sister might be driving it? I shook my head, letting out a bitter laugh. No idea, probably posting about it on Instagram. Ruiz gave a small, sympathetic smile. Family theft cases are complicated, but whether it's a stranger or a relative, it's still theft. The law doesn't make exceptions for feelings. Those words hit me harder than I expected. The law doesn't make exceptions for feelings. My entire life had been a series of exceptions where my family's feelings, or rather their habits, overrode my boundaries. They had spent decades telling me my effort didn't matter, that my independence was irrelevant, that my achievements were invisible. And yet here, outside of their world, justice sounded simple. Ruiz photographed the empty parking spot and noted the security camera above the lot. She spoke into her radio, giving the bolo. Dispatch, run a bolo for a silver 2023 Toyota Camry, license plate CL4-2078, registered to Natalie Reyes, Denver County. Possible suspect driving. I stood there watching her work and realized that for the first time, I wasn't just a bystander in my own story. I was a participant. The car could be reclaimed, yes, but more importantly, my boundaries were being recognized. My voice mattered. My rights mattered. For years, I had let my parents' habit of rescuing Elena at my expense dictate my life. But now, standing in that parking lot, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. Power. Not the loud, flashy kind that comes from money or influence, but quiet, solid, undeniable power. The kind that comes from claiming your own worth and refusing to let anyone take it away. Ruiz gave me instructions. Stay put, let the authorities track the vehicle, and don't confront anyone until it was located. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of tension and relief. For the first time, I didn't feel invisible. I pulled out my phone again and sent a message to a trusted friend. They took it, but I'm not letting them win. My fingers shook slightly as I hit send. This was more than a stolen car. It was a declaration, a signal that I was done standing silently, done being invisible, done letting my family's habits define my life. That night, as the Denver skyline glowed behind the empty lot, I sat alone with a strange sense of anticipation. The Camry wasn't just a car, it was my independence, my hard work, my quiet victories made tangible, and I would get it back. This was my fight, and for the first time in my life, I felt fully ready to win. The next day, I woke up with a restless sense of urgency. My Camry wasn't just a car, it was everything I had worked for, and it was still out there, in someone else's hands, taken without my permission. I knew waiting passively wasn't enough. I needed to face Elena, and I needed to draw a line I had never dared to draw before. I started scrolling through her social media, my stomach twisting as I saw photos she had posted. There she was, smiling with my Camry gleaming behind her, like it had always been hers. Each image made my blood boil, but also clarified one thing. I couldn't rely on anyone to enforce my boundaries for me. I had to assert them myself. I texted Elena before confronting her, the words deliberately calm. "We need to talk. Now." Her reply came almost immediately. "About what?" "About my car. You know, the one you weren't supposed to take." Her answer was a series of emojis, smiling faces, hearts, a shrug. I could almost hear her laugh through the screen. Typical Elena, entitled, carefree, unconcerned about anyone's rules but her own. I drove to her apartment, keeping my hands tight around the steering wheel. My mind rehearsed what I would say over and over. No yelling, no begging, just facts, boundaries, and the demand for restitution. I parked outside and saw the Camry in the driveway. There it was, mocking me, shiny and untouched, like it had been stolen from a stranger rather than the person who had built her entire life around independence. Elena answered the door in yoga pants and a messy bun, her expression a mix of surprise and mild annoyance. "Natalie, what are you doing here?" "Collecting what's mine," I said, voice calm but firm. "You took my car without permission. Give me the keys." She tilted her head, pretending to think. "Oh, that? Mom said I could have it. She said it was fine." I felt the heat rise in my chest but forced myself to remain composed. "Your mother does not get to decide what belongs to me. That car is mine. I paid for it in full. No one else has the right to take it." Elena's laugh was sharp, almost mocking. "Relax, it's just a car. You're overreacting." "No, I'm not overreacting," I said, stepping closer. "It's not just a car. It's my independence. Every payment, every mile, every little victory that car represents is mine. And you taking it without asking? That's theft, plain and simple." For the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt cross her face, but it was quickly replaced by defiance. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. Mom and Dad wouldn't have a problem with it." "They do have a problem," I said, voice rising slightly. "Because it's my problem, and it's wrong. I've spent my entire life watching you be rescued while I'm ignored, pretending that my achievements don't matter. That ends now." She opened her mouth, probably to argue, but I didn't give her the chance. I reached for the keys and, without waiting for consent, took them from the console. My hands were shaking, but this time it wasn't fear, it was power. Elena stepped back, crossing her arms. "Seriously? You think taking the keys back like this changes anything?" "Yes," I said. "It changes everything, because for the first time, I'm not invisible. I'm not silent, and I'm done letting you, or anyone, decide what I can or cannot have." As I got into the Camry and started the engine, I felt a wave of triumph mixed with exhaustion. This confrontation wasn't just about a car. It was about reclaiming every boundary that had been crossed in my life, every moment I had been overlooked, every time I had been expected to be silent. Driving away, I realized the fight wasn't over. There would be calls, texts, arguments. My parents would be involved sooner or later. But for the first time, I felt unshakable. I was standing up not just for my car, but for myself, and nothing, not Elena, not my parents' habits, could take that from me. That night I sat alone in my apartment, keys in hand, Camry safely in the garage. I thought about all the years of quiet victories I had accumulated, all the moments I had been ignored, and I felt something I hadn't felt in decades: validation. I had taken back my property, I had taken back my power, and I had drawn a line that no one would cross again. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, I understood the strength of standing up for yourself, of refusing to let family habits define your life, and of demanding respect, even when it was long overdue. The Camry was back in my garage, shining under the soft glow of the streetlight, and yet the sense of victory went far beyond a car. It wasn't just the keys I had retrieved. It was every boundary I had ever had to defend, every achievement that had gone unnoticed, every moment I had been expected to remain invisible. For the first time in my life, I felt like my own life truly belonged to me. That night I sat on the hood of the car, staring at the Denver skyline. The city lights flickered like 1,000 tiny sparks of possibility, each one a reminder of how far I had come. I thought about my parents, about Elena, about all the years of favoritism and chaos, and I realized that their habits, their excuses, their constant undervaluing of my effort, they didn't define me anymore. They never had. I had spent decades learning to survive in a family that never learned to stand on its own 2 feet. I had learned to budget every cent, work extra hours, save relentlessly, and navigate life without expecting fairness. I had learned to celebrate my victories quietly, savoring the small, personal triumphs that no one else acknowledged. And now, finally, I was allowed to honor them openly. The next morning I called my parents. I kept my tone calm, controlled, and firm, the way I had wished I could speak all those years. "Mom, Dad, the Camry is back. I want to make it clear that what happened yesterday was unacceptable. No one has the right to take what belongs to me." There was a pause, then the familiar defensiveness crept in. "It's just a car, Natalie," Dad said. "It's not just a car," I said. "It's my independence, my work, my effort, and I will not let anyone treat it, or me, as expendable. This isn't negotiable." I could hear the hesitation, the sudden realization that for once, I wasn't staying silent. And I didn't care if it made them uncomfortable. I didn't care if Elena sulked or plotted. For the first time, I was putting my life, my boundaries, and my worth first. I spent the rest of the week taking stock. Every small accomplishment, every goal I had met without help, suddenly felt more significant. The Camry was more than a vehicle. It was a symbol of everything I had fought for: financial independence, self-respect, and the courage to stand up for myself. I had learned that being responsible, patient, and disciplined didn't make me invisible. It made me strong. I also realized something else. Standing up to my family didn't mean I hated them. It meant I valued myself enough to insist on fairness. It meant I could love my family while drawing boundaries that protected my life and my achievements. For the first time, I understood that independence wasn't just about money or possessions. It was about voice, choice, and self-respect. A few weeks later, Elena stopped posting about the Camry. My parents had grown quiet too, as if they were beginning to realize that I wasn't going to disappear into silence anymore. I felt no triumph in their discomfort. My satisfaction came from knowing I could finally claim my life on my terms. Driving through Denver that weekend, the Camry humming beneath me, I smiled to myself. The road stretched ahead like every possibility I had earned. I thought about my journey, From the sleepless nights counting tips to buying my first car, from silent sacrifices to standing up against favoritism, every struggle had shaped me, every challenge had strengthened me, and every boundary I enforced was a declaration of my worth. The city lights reflected in the windshield, and for the first time, I felt fully seen. Not by my parents, not by Elena, not by anyone who had underestimated me for years, but by myself. I had fought for what was mine, and in doing so, I had reclaimed more than a car. I had reclaimed my independence, my voice, and my right to exist without compromise. I parked the car, turned off the engine, and stepped out into the crisp evening air. The weight of years of injustice lifted slightly from my shoulders, leaving room only for one thing: freedom. Freedom, I realized, wasn't given. It was claimed. And I had claimed mine.